on Y News. PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde relinquishes his post as he goes on non-duty status amid allegations dragging him into the reselling of seized illegal drugs. Lawmakers believe that PNP Chief Albayalde is not yet off the hook over allegations in the Ninja Cops issue despite early exit. The lawyer of Mary Jane Veloso believes her sentence may be lowered after a Supreme Court ruling that allows her to testify against her recruiters through deposition. African swine fever affected hog raisers to receive 5,000 pesos for every hog to be culled. And our compatriots in Japan help a Filipino couple bring back their typhoon-ravaged house to a home sweet home. Good evening. General Oscar Albayalde stepped down from his post as the Philippine National Police Chief this morning. With this development, PNP Deputy Chief for Administration Lieutenant General Archie Gamboa will act as the PNP officer in charge until President Rodrigo Duterte appoints the next PNP chief. April Senadoza details why.
His flag-raising ceremony in the Philippine National Police Headquarters at Camp Crame in Quezon City. Outgoing PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde announced his decision to step down from his post.
I have come to the decision to relinquish my post as Chief PNP effective today and go on non-duty status.
In his speech in front of PNP personnel, Albayalde said he had a conversation with Interior Secretary Eduardo Año about the Senate inquiry on the Ago Bato operation that occurred in 2013. He has been linked to the issue since he was the Pampanga Provincial Police Director during that time. Albayalde said his non-duty status will pave the way for the appointment of his replacement. Following this, Police Lieutenant General Archie Gamboa will act as the PNP officer in charge.
As officer in charge, I take the responsibility to manage all activities of the PNP Command Group.
According to Gamboa, Albayalde told him to continue the PNP's campaign against illegal drugs and their internal cleansing efforts. Meanwhile, according to Malacanang, Albayalde was not pressured to step down from his post. Presidential spokesperson and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Secretary Salvador Panelo believes Albayalde has had enough, so he left his post.
I can only speculate that maybe he had enough of the, according to him, false, unfair accusations and innuendos, especially because his family is suffering. Baka bumigay yung mama. Parang pinakiusapan yata ng pamilya.
Panelo said he doesn't have an idea as to President Rodrigo Duterte's instruction to Albayalde. DILG Secretary Año in a statement says he endorsed Albayalde's resignation to the President on Sunday night, which has been accepted. Año commends Albayalde for selfless act in order to spare the PNP of the ongoing controversy. April Senadoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Police General Oscar Albayalde has come to a decision to relinquish his post as the Chief of the Philippine National Police effective today. Along this announcement, he said he's going on a non-duty status. What is the meaning of non-duty status? Can General Albayalde still get his salary and benefits until his retirement? Find that out as Lea Ilagan reports.
PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde is set to retire on November 8, the day he will reach the mandatory retirement age of 56. But several weeks ahead that day, he stepped down from his post this morning after being implicated in the Ninja Cops and Ago Bato issues.
Naapektuhan din ang kanyang personal na buhay, maging ang kanyang pamilya. So maring ito rin ang nagbunsod sa kanya na talagang magbitiw na lamang sa pwesto.
Albayalde is now on a non-duty status from today, October 14. But what is the meaning of non-duty status? According to presidential spokesperson Secretary Salvador Panelo, it's like going on vacation leave.
Alam ko, nagte-terminal leave siya. Kasi ang retirement mo niya pa rin, yung pa rin, di ba? November 8 pa rin eh. Parang vacation leave lang yata ang dating sa akin nun eh.
But based on National Police Commission or NAPOLCOM Memorandum Circular 2009183, PNP personnel may file a non-duty status up to 3 months before his retirement date. PNP spokesperson Banak says most police non-commissioned officers avail of a 3-month non-duty status. On the other hand, police commissioned officers usually avail of it 1 month before their retirement date.
May mga talagang tungkulin sila na responsibilidad na hindi basta-bastang maiwanan, kinakailangan ng mahabang panahon ng turnover.
In the history of the PNP, General Albayalde is the first PNP chief to go on a non-duty status. The officer in charge of the PNP will now lead the almost 200,000-strong police force of the country. Albayalde may still get his salary and benefits when he retires.
Ang lahat ng mga napapailalim sa non-duty status ay tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang kanilang sahod at matatanggap nila ng buo yung kanilang retirement benefits na nauukol para sa kanila after the retirement.
Albayalde still holds a 4-star rank until the President appoints the next PNP Chief. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon reveals PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde is not off the hook by resigning from his post. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Now, hindi porke nag-retire ka, sarado ang kaso mo. Ako, sasabihin ko lang, mabuti naman at si General Albayalde makakapahinga siya. He has time to review his case. 4-star general pa siya hanggang November 8. Kung ako sa kanya, kausapin ko yung mga pulis, sasabihin na totoo, kung hindi siya kasama.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon stresses Police General Oscar Albayalde, who has resigned and gone on a non-duty status, is not yet let off from blame or liabilities amid the Senate probe on the 2013 Agaw Bato incident. The senator says the pieces of evidence they have gathered during the Senate investigation will be used against the resigned PNP chief.
Bibigyan namin sa Ombudsman at saka sa Department of Justice because lahat na nagpumunta doon, they're under oath. So, magagamit sa ebidensya.
Senator Gordon adds they will not stop until all those involved in the anomalous drug raid is put to justice.
Ngayon, napatunayan na talagang nangyayari yan. At malalaki, walang exception. At ang tao ngayon, kampante. Tandaan natin, hindi naman na nasira pulis din eh. Dahil ang pulis rin nagsumbong sa amin eh. Si General Magalong, di ba? Si General Magalong, inutusan ni General Pulisma in 2013 na investigahin yung nangyari. Inimbestiga naman ni Patrasanta at ito ang lumabas.
For Senator Gordon, strict sanctions must immediately be imposed on erring cops.
Ang kailangan lang, ang nagpapatakbo, mahigpit. At dapat kahit na pulis yan, kaagad, yung mismong pulis, suspended ka. Imbestigahin, tapusin nyo kaagad.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee plans to continue the hearing this week.
Session, suspended lang. Para anytime pwede namin buksan. Pero in the meantime, ilalabas ko na yung report maaaring sa Miyerkules o sa Webes o sa Biyernes. Tayaan nyo na.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Senators agree that resigned PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde is not off the hook from the Agaw Bato Senate probe. Meanwhile, Senator Richard Gordon reveals the cops involved in the probe may be charged for selling confiscated drugs and drug trafficking. Grace Casin details why.
Senator Richard Gordon today revealed the possible liabilities of resigned PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde are negligence, graft and corruption, and conspiracy. The recent statement of retired General Rudy Lacadin has a weight on Albayalde's possible liability, the senator said. In a statement, Senator Franklin Drilon says Albayalde will not in any way clear himself from his liabilities, both administratively or criminally.
Negligence, neglect of duty, and then possible corruption and possible conspiracy to distribute drugs. Oh, yeah. Ganyan, life imprisonment yun. Kaya lahat ng mga pulis, ang pinakadelikado sa kanila, pag lumabas na yung mga kotse, lumabas na yan, there's a good ground that they can be prosecuted for selling confiscated drugs and becoming drug traffickers themselves. Parang qualified yun eh. Sila yung mga opisyal tapos silang gumagawa. And that is going to be multiple life sentences.
For Senator Christopher Bongo, if there is enough evidence, there should be charges filed against Albayalde.
Kung may ebidensya po, bakit hindi? Kung may ebidensya at kung talagang sangkot, wala pong dapat i-spare dito. Lahat, sabi ko nga, managot ang dapat managot.
Senator Panfilo Lacson, on the other hand, says the decision of Albayalde diminishes the redeeming value of his intent to spare the PNP from so-called ninja cops controversies. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is hoping to find ex-police Ronald Santos. They believe he is the key to what really transpired during the operation in Pampanga in 2013.
Isang missing link eh. Hindi siya nagpapakita. That means he's afraid. Marami nang gusto sumigaw dyan eh. And I think sisigaw na yan. Especially, that could be a side effect of this na maaari na pag dahil dito nakita nila na yung pinakamataas at tinamaan, baka magsalita na sila.
Senator Gordon advises the president to step in the filing of charges against Albayalde.
My advice is, and maybe he can get mad at me again, it's all right. As far as I'm concerned, this is a chance, a good opportunity for the president to make a clean breast of it all. Napakita niya na wala siyang kinikilingan sa corruption. Wala siyang kinikilingan dito kahit na uniformadong tao, kahit na pinagtiwalaan niya, ay dapat kayang makakagandang dihamak sa presidente yan pagka tinuluyan niya at hinulog niya yung tabak doon sa leeg nito mga nagluloko.
The committee will still invite Albayalde in the next hearing. The draft committee report on the Agaw Bato scheme may be out this week. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Ako Bicol Party List proposes that the selection of the next Philippine National Police Chief must be stringent. Meanwhile, the Makabayan bloc in the lower house of Congress believes that General Oscar Albayalde's resignation is a move to try to minimize damage made by his involvement in the Senate's probe into rogue cops. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
For Ako Bicol Party List Representative Alfredo Garbin Jr., it is not enough for a policeman to pass an exam or to have the backing or recommendation of politicians for him or her to acquire a high post on the police force. It is not the mandate of the Commission on Appointments to confirm police officials, not even the PNP Chief. Garbin also points out there is currently no process to investigate or weed out police officers with links to organized crime, unethical practices, or conflict of interest. The lawmaker proposes for government agencies to work together to solve this issue by conducting thorough lifestyle checks on police generals and other high police posts. Meanwhile, the Makabayan bloc in the lower house of Congress believes that General Oscar Albayalde's resignation is a kind of smokescreen or an attempt to minimize damage. Bayan Muna Representative Ferdinand Gaite says this was done to cover the true corruption in the administration's anti-drug campaign. Gaite believes the palace may have talked to Albayalde to step down as the Senate's investigation on rogue cops has intensified. The House Makabayan bloc calls for Senate to continue to investigate and to hold responsible those involved in the Agaw Bato incident and the recycling of illegal drugs.
Hindi natin sa sinabi na ituloy pa rin ito kasi mukhang hindi pa na-unfold yung lahat tungkol sa ninja cops. Madaliin na yung investigasyon kay Albayalde at saka yung iba pang mga cops na o ninja cops.
Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Former PNP CIDG Chief and now Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong welcomes the resignation of Police General Oscar Albayalde. Magalong says Albayalde could have felt he had no choice already but to step down after losing moral high ground to lead. He disagrees with some observers that Albayalde's move is just damage control on the part of the administration. He, however, agreed that Albayalde is not yet off the hook and the Senate should continue with its inquiry into the allegations. Magalong adds that with this development, the PNP can now pursue its transformation program more effectively under a new leadership. During the past Senate hearings, Magalong linked the resigned PNP chief to the so-called ninja cops or the policemen involved in recycling of illegal drugs.
Sa tingin ko, nararamdaman na rin niya yung pressure. Lalo-lalo na sa kanyang mga supporter eh. So, ikaw ba naman eh, iniiwasan ka na. Hindi ka na rin gano'ng pinapansin. Tapos nakita ko siguro na ina-avoid na siya. Pati pag masalubong siya, ina-avoid siya. Ano mararamdaman mo? So, you lost the moral high ground to leave. So, anong pinakamabuting gagawin? Mag-resign ka. Hindi yung alam mo na hindi ka na nire-respeto ng tao patapos kapit ko pa rin sa pwesto.
The lawyer of Mary Jane Veloso, a Filipina arrested in 2010 in Indonesia after being caught with a suitcase that contained 2.2 kilograms of heroin, believes that her sentence may be lowered or her death penalty could be postponed. This comes after a Supreme Court ruling that allows her to testify against her recruiters through deposition. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
The Supreme Court on Friday allowed the out-of-court testimony or deposition from Mary Jane Veloso against her recruiters. The SC overturned the decision of the Court of Appeals in 2017 that reversed the resolution of the Nueva Ecija Regional Trial Court. The Nueva Ecija RTC granted the motion of the prosecution to take a deposition from Veloso in Indonesia through written interrogatories. For the Supreme Court to disallow the written interrogatories will curtail Veloso's right to due process. According to National Union of People's Lawyers or NUPL President and Veloso's lawyer, Attorney Edre Olalia, they have yet to receive a copy of the SC ruling, meaning they have no clear idea as of now on the guidelines of the deposition. There is no schedule yet when the prosecution will fly to Indonesia to get the testimony. But Olalia said this is a huge development in Veloso's case.
Kami ay kumpiyansa naman na mapaparusahan yung mga recruiters. At tapos, yun ang magiging hudyat ng Indonesia para either gawing permanente pagpapaliban, babaan ng sentensya, ipapatawarin na lang siya sa pamamagitan ng pardon ng amnesty.
Olalia said Veloso's testimony against her recruiters is crucial in the human trafficking, illegal recruitment, and estafa charges. Veloso was sentenced to death by firing squad in 2010. In April 2015, she was given a reprieve by the Indonesian government through a request of then-President Benigno Aquino III to allow her to testify against her recruiters. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Malacanang PSC Camao still leads Group B as the first round of eliminations in the UNTV Cup Season 8 continues. PhilHealth Plus enters the win column, while the Judiciary Magis suffered another loss. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
In the main game of Sunday's triple header, NHA head coach and former Ginebra player Bennett Palad seems to have passed on to his players the never say die spirit as the Builders demolished two-time champion Judiciary Magis in an exciting double overtime yesterday, 108-101 in Pasig City Sports Center. Though the Judiciary dominated the first to third quarters, the NHA gradually bulldozed the Magis in the last quarter to force an overtime. The highlights of the first overtime was an exchange of three-point shots from NHA's Alvin Vitug, who converted 3 trays, and Frederick Salamat, who made 4 three-pointers to head to a second overtime 95-all.
Sa loob, malalaki sila, kailangan ko ng speed eh. So, kailangan ko merong humasil kay Warren eh. Kasi kung hindi, wala, mayayari kami sa ilalim. Wala akong malaki.
Ang naging problema namin ng fourth quarter, lamang kami ng 11 points. Medyo ipinrest namin yung ball. Kaya nawala yung namin, yung momentum namin. Sa tingin ko, yung naging factor, kaya nahabol kami.
Player of the game were twins Waldemar and Ralph Tibay with combined 42 points.
Kailangan mahirapan si Warren, yun lang naman yung game plan namin, pahirapan namin yung veterano kasi kung walang magtitimon sa kanila, patay na yung ng Judiciary. Shooter talaga eh, kahit anong gawin namin, may double kami sa side eh. Ang problema lang namin, sumasakto yung tira ni ano doon kanina. Pero good defense pa rin kami.
When the Builders are now in the third place in Group B with a 2-1 win-loss record. The Magis, on the other hand, are in the fourth place with 1 win and 2 losses. And in the second game, although Mark Pedroso has not recovered 100% from an injury, he forced himself to play to lead PhilHealth Plus to their first win. The game went to an overtime, but as a 10-minute buzzer went off, PhilHealth led by 8 points and yelled victory. Pedroso collected 19 points while Jonathan Aldave made 38 points. The two were hailed the best players of the game. Meanwhile, Malacanang PSC Camao's record remains unstained after claiming their third win in Sunday's first game. Joseph Besa made 19 points and 3 rebounds to lead the Furies to the 102-69 win. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue.
Welcome back to Wine News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo rejects a new commute challenge for 6 months posed by a transport group. African swine fever affected hog racers to receive 5,000 pesos for every hog to be culled. The Department of Health begins its mass vaccination in the country as polio returns. Know which cities in Metro Manila are bicycle-friendly. And UNTV Wine News anchor William Theo bags an award at the 33rd PMPC Star Awards. Good evening. Presidential spokesperson and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo will not respond to a new commute challenge posed by a transport group. Meanwhile, according to the palace, President Rodrigo Duterte agrees that the use of blinkers and sirens or wangwang on EDSA should be curbed. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Commuter Group Kongreso ng Mananakay challenges Presidential Spokesperson and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Secretary Salvador Panelo to take public transport not only for a day but for 6 months. But according to Secretary Panelo, he won't accept the challenge this time.
What is your reaction?
Alam mo, kaya ko lang naman pinagbigyan sila para pamukha sa kanila na hindi totoo yung sinasabi nila na hindi namin nararanasan. Kahit na hindi ka, gaya ng ulit-ulit, kahit na hindi ka sumakay doon, mararanasan mo kasi araw-araw nakikita mo yun eh. Hindi na kailangan tumanggap pa ng anong pagawal.
The palace official also challenges the administration's critics. He says instead of criticizing, they should give suggestions to resolve the traffic crisis. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte agrees with Vice President Leni Robredo when she stated the use of blinkers or wangwang should be prohibited on EDSA.
Personally, si Presidente alam niya ng mga ganung wangwang. But, I can understand kung kailangan gamitin mo yung wangwang on a particular occasion.
He adds it is rare for cabinet members to use blinkers. They use blinkers only during emergency situations. The official admits, however, there was a time when he accepted the assistance of police escorts when he lost his way for an interview. Even the PNP supports the Vice President's statement. According to PNP Deputy Chief for Administration, Lieutenant General Archie Gamboa, the law against the use of wangwang should be well implemented because of the massive traffic problem in Metro Manila.
Should be properly implemented, especially with traffic that we have now in Metropolis.
VP Robredo has stressed that the use of siren is an insult to the public, as if saying the affairs of an official using the siren or blinker is more important than that of public commuters. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Light Rail Transit or LRT Line 2 may resume full operations within 2 to 3 months, according to the Light Rail Transit Authority or LRTA, according to Attorney Hernando Cabrera, the LRTA spokesperson. After they have inspected the power rectifier which exploded last October 3, they found out there are some spare parts available that may be used for the repair of the train system. The official also explains the repair might be fast-tracked if they do it component by component.
Nandyan na yung big possibility na ang gagawin natin is component by component yung ating replacement. So pag component level yung ating repair, restoration at saka replacement, mas iigsi yung timeline na nakikita natin.
Starting today, October 14, LRT2 commercial operations will be from 5 a.m. while the last trip schedules are 8:30 p.m. from Cubao and 9 p.m. from Recto stations. Also beginning today, the free ride for students will be from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. from Monday to Friday except on holidays. The Department of Health launches its Patak Polio campaign for children 0 to 59 months old in several priority areas such as the National Capital Region and Mindanao. Maya Bermudez reports why.
The Quezon City Health Office and the Health Department target to administer polio vaccines on more than 266,000 children in the city to fight polio. At past 9 this morning in Barangay Bago Bantay, more than 300 children were given oral polio vaccines.
So far, wala pa kaming na-encounter na ayaw ng mga magulang. Kasi nakita kasi nila na patak lang, it's non-invasive, okay na eh.
Sana wag lang yung polio vaccine, pati yung MMR, pati yung diphtheria, yung lahat ng mandatory immunizations natin. Total, nag-poliohan na, nabigyan na kayo ng card, dalhin nyo na po yung mga anak ninyo sa health center. Pabakunahan na po natin ng lahat ng necessary vaccines.
From October 14 until November 27, the first round of vaccines will be given in several priority areas in the country such as the National Capital Region, Marawi City, Lanao del Sur, Davao City, and Davao del Sur.
Lahat ng mga bata na 5 years old at pababa ay bibigyan po natin ng patak ng bakuna po ito kontra sa polio.
It was in September when the DOH declared a polio outbreak in the country after 2 cases were confirmed.
Sana po abangan nila yung ating mga nagbabakuna or mas mabuti rin po dalhin na nila sa center. Basta po edad 5 years at pababa. Hindi po importante kung nakompleto niya na yung bakuna niya dati o kung hindi nila sigurado. Lahat po ng bata ay mabibigyan natin at wala naman po kasing overdose ito.
Maya Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Are you a hog racer whose pigs must be culled due to the swine disease called African swine fever? You may expect a 5,000 peso financial assistance per culled hog from the Department of Agriculture or DA instead of the previous 3,000 pesos. Ray Palayo tells us why.
The Agriculture Department has raised their financial assistance to hog raisers affected by ASF to 5,000 pesos for every hog that will be culled. According to Undersecretary Ariel Cayanan, more than 40,000 swines have already been culled. The DA will also tighten the implementation of quarantine checkpoints to prevent the spread of the ASF virus. Last Friday, October 11, around 700 crates of pork products worth 1.6 million pesos were intercepted at the quarantine checkpoint at the San Juanico Bridge. The Tacloban City Veterinary Office said they confiscated the pork products due to incomplete documents. Mindanao Development Authority Chair Secretary Manny Piñol on his social media post has questioned how such products were able to pass the quarantine checkpoints in Matnog, Sorsogon and in Northern Samar.
That is something that we have to find out kung bakit po nakalasad po yan.
A meat processors group, meanwhile, estimates their losses amid the ASF outbreak could reach about 55 billion pesos if the transportation of pork products won't be rationalized.
Processed meats are not carriers of ASF. Processed meats are all processed at temperatures that kills the organism.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
6 manufacturers are asking the Department of Trade and Industry to increase the price of ham these months. According to the DTI, the basis for their request for price increase are the cost of raw materials and the effect of the African swine fever or ASF in the local hog industry. Joan Nano tells us why.
6 ham manufacturers have filed their petition to the Department of Trade and Industry seeking for a 15% price increase. But DTI Undersecretary Ruth Castello argues that the impact of the African swine fever outbreak should not be a basis for a price hike in ham.
And we know that it has been contained at alam naman natin na kung saan lang dapat na countries pwedeng manggaling yun, hindi dapat maka-apekto dun sa presyo.
The DTI and the Department of the Interior and Local Government will meet next week to tackle the ban of meat products in areas not affected by the ASF virus. The DTI insists the local governments has nothing to worry about eating and selling pork as long as the meat passed the National Meat Inspections process. According to Yusa Castello, the price of pork per kilogram should not exceed 200 pesos since the farm gate prices dropped.
Ang presyo dapat ng pork sa retail, sa palengke, maximum should be 180 pesos. Yung 230 na nakikita natin, sobrang mahal.
But in Balintawak and Nepacumart in Quezon City, several meat vendors sell pork at higher prices.
Ang kasing pige 200, ang yempo 230 to 240. Medyo bumaba ng bagya compare sa dati.
Selling pork at higher prices set by authorities is a clear violation of the Consumer Protection Act according to the DTI. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Japanese authorities have launched a huge operation to provide humanitarian assistance and assess the damage wrought by Typhoon Hagibis after its hurricane-force winds and torrential rain killed 40 people and sparked major flooding. Meanwhile, the Philippine Embassy in Tokyo, Japan says there are no Filipino casualties in the aftermath of the typhoon. RL Camilla details why.
At least 40 people are known to have died in the storm and 16 people are still missing in central, eastern, and northern areas of the main Honshu Island, while another 189 were injured. Japan Air Self-Defense Forces released dramatic footage of a helicopter rescue as well as boats traveling through flooded residential areas on Sunday as at least 12 rivers burst their banks. In Nagano Prefecture, one of the worst affected by the storm, torrential rains caused the Chikuma River to overflow and flood nearby localities, carrying away vehicles in its torrent. The central government has deployed around 27,000 soldiers of the self-defense forces to take part in the rescue efforts. The country's road network was also affected and the flooding of some of them left some areas isolated. The Japanese Meteorological Agency urged people to remain on alert to the risk of flooding and landslides even after the typhoon had passed, warning that the soil might loosen due to the heavy rains. Around 92,000 households remain without power, with 120,000 experiencing water outages. More than 7 million people were urged to leave their homes at the peak of the storm, but it is thought only 50,000 stayed in the shelters. The passage of Hagibis, the 19th typhoon of the season in the Pacific and one of the most powerful to hit Japan in decades. Meanwhile, in a text message to UNTV News, the Philippine Embassy in Tokyo says as of today, there are no Filipino casualties in the aftermath of Typhoon Hagibis. President Rodrigo Duterte instructed the Department of Foreign Affairs to extend humanitarian aid to Japan in the aftermath of the powerful Typhoon Hagibis. President Duterte also expressed deep sympathy to those affected by Hagibis. RL Camilla, UNTV News and Rescue, Japan.
UNTV Y News anchor William Theo bagged an award at the 33rd Philippine Movie Press Club or PMPC Star Awards for television held last night at the Henry Lee Irwin Theater, Ateneo de Manila University. William won the Best Documentary Host for his performance in UNTV's documentary program Spotlight. In his acceptance speech, William said that the award is proof that he is on the right track in his career in TV broadcasting. And issues about the authorized use of sirens, or wang-wang as some Filipinos call it, have surfaced recently. Many ask who are authorized to use a siren and when is the right time to use it. Mon Hokson has the answers to those questions. Let's watch this.
Good 1 a.m.
What comes to your mind when you hear the sound of a siren wailing from a distance?
May na-disgrasya, accident. May sunog o kaya may aksidente.
Many think those are really the reasons for using a siren. According to Vice President Leni Robredo, if many government officials are accustomed to using a siren, they cannot feel the struggles of the Filipinos. For her, it is an insult to the public when public officials use wang-wang on roads. But who really are authorized to use a siren? Based on Presidential Decree number 96, it is unlawful to attach to any vehicle any siren, bell, horn, whistle, or other similar gadgets that produce exceptionally loud or startling sounds. Gadgets or devices mentioned above may be attached to and used only on motor vehicles, designated for official use by the Armed Forces of the Philippines, National Bureau of Investigation, Land Transportation Office, police departments, fire departments, and hospital ambulances. There is no provision in the law that any government official can use a siren. Even former President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III, during his term, reiterated the prohibition of using a siren. But does the use of siren help in managing traffic? The MMDA says it does, but depending on when it is used. According to EDSA Traffic Chief Bong Nebrija, the traffic situation may get even worse if a siren is used, especially by a public official, even for an unofficial activity. Nebrija explains, using a siren is valuable to their operation.
Diba? For example, nakita nyo may hagad, we need to be in front to address yung mga panggaan, mga aksidente, tumanig sa traffic ahead pag tumutukod, we need to respond.
Violation of Presidential Decree number 96 may be penalized with cancellation or revocation of the certificate of registration of the motor vehicle involved. The MMDA has this appeal to the public.
Kung meron po kayo, nakita nyo, civilian na hinahawi pa kayo, winawang-wangan kayo, naka-blinker pa, palagay nyo naman private in nature. And you may send to us the plate number and you will endorse it to LTO.
The Land Transportation Office or LTO and all its deputized government agencies are the only authorized officials to apprehend violators of Presidential Decree number 96. Mon Hocson, UNTV News and Rescue.
And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. Medium compliance. This is the score of Manila City given by the Department of the Interior and Local Government Validation Team on its road clearing efforts. Meanwhile, as he marks his first 100 days in office, Mayor Isko Moreno takes pride of the city government's total collected parking fees despite the reduction of parking areas due to the president's road clearing order. Arlene Delgado tells us why.
In his first 100 days report, the mayor revealed that the total collected parking fees from July to September this year reached over 54 million pesos. This is way higher compared with the 12 million pesos collected in the same period last year.
Nagtanggal pa ho tayo ng mga parkable space. Dapat kung nagtanggal tayo ng parkable space, dapat mas bumaba yung pong ibinabayad ninyo sa mga panahon ngayon. At yung mga resibong nakukuha ninyo, yan ay palatala kayang papasukin sa kaban ng bayan.
In Manila City, the parking fee for private vehicles, jeepneys, tricycles, and motorcycles in the first 3 hours is 20 pesos, plus 15 pesos in the succeeding hours, 30 pesos for vans and delivery trucks, and 60 pesos for buses and 10-wheeled trucks. Although the DILG's 60-day deadline has ended, the City of Manila continues to clear its roads of obstructions. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Meanwhile, the city government of Manila will conduct a mega job fair on Friday, October 18, 2019. It will be held at the Cartilla ng Katipunan in Ermita, Manila from 10 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening. Interested applicants are encouraged to bring their resume or biodata, 2x2 pictures, diploma, transcripts of records, and barangay clearance. The job fair is open for all.
We would prefer, siyempre, mga taga-lungsod ng Maynila, but anybody can join.
And for the news abroad, Kurdish authorities announced Sunday that the Syrian Arab Army, which is loyal to the government in Damascus, is set to be deployed on the country's northeastern border to stem the offensive launched by Turkey, which on its fifth day has caused many civilian casualties and the escape of hundreds of Islamic State militants. Aaron Romero has the details.
The Kurds in Syria say the Syrian government has agreed to send its army to the northern border to try to halt Turkey's offensive against them. Syrian state media earlier reported that government forces have been deployed to the north. It follows the U.S. decision to pull all its remaining troops from the area over the untenable situation there.
Now I'm sort of an island of one again, but now it's maybe happening again. That 30 kilometers, 22 miles strip along Turkey. And the Kurds are tending to leave, and that's good. Let them have their borders. But I don't think our soldiers should be there for the next 50 years guarding a border between Turkey and Syria when we can't guard our own borders at home. I don't think so.
The Turkish assault launched last week is aimed at forcing Kurdish forces from along the border area. Areas under control of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, the main U.S. ally in the area, have come under heavy bombardment over the weekend, with Turkey making gains in two key border towns. Dozens of civilians and fighters have been killed on both sides. In a separate development on Sunday, Kurdish officials said nearly 800 relatives of foreign Islamic State members had escaped from Ain Issa, a camp in the north, as clashes raged nearby. The Turkish offensive and U.S. withdrawal has drawn an international outcry as the SDF, where the main Western allies in the battle against is in Syria. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue.
Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno and leaders of the country's indigenous peoples have struck a deal to cancel a disputed austerity package and end nearly 2 weeks of protests that have paralyzed the economy and left 7 people dead. Kaf de Maraos has the details.
A resistive calm over Quito on Sunday after a curfew was placed on the city following violent protests that saw the Ecuadorian capital resemble a war zone. On Saturday, the highland capital was rocked by a 10th day of clashes over President Lenin Moreno's austerity plan. Moreno agreed to repeal a decree that ended fuel subsidies and will form a commission with indigenous leaders to pass a new law they can agree on.
To immediately get to work on the issues for the terms that have been arrived at, to become agreements for a new decree that has been perfected and which allows for resources to those who most need it. I have no problem in eliminating the decree that which affects the most impoverished.
Yo no tengo ningún problema. After days of violent protests that have roiled the capital of Quito, Moreno agreed to the talks with indigenous groups to ease the unrest. Arnold Peral, the representative of the United Nations in Ecuador, said that indigenous leaders agreed to call off protests against the decree. The announcement was a major breakthrough in a dispute that has unleashed 12 days of unrest in the capital, Quito. Moreno has blamed groups loyal to former President Rafael Correa and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro for fomenting the violence in the capital. Correa faces 29 different charges against him, from corruption to misuse of power in Ecuador. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Chaos and violence descended on at least a dozen districts in Hong Kong on Sunday as anti-government activists staged flash mob protests in familiar scenes that have played out in the territory over the past weeks. Meanwhile, 1 person was killed and at least 18 injured in New Orleans when part of a hotel under construction collapsed. Stephanie C. reports.
In the USA,
Get to the back.
Part of the Hard Rock Hotel's outer wall came crashing down as horrified passengers on a New Orleans trolley watched. Amateur video captured the building's partial collapse and the ensuing confusion outside of the hotel. One person was killed and at least 18 were injured in the incident. Emergency services were using rescue dogs and drones to search for any more victims as a family of one missing man, Anthony Magret, lit candles and kept vigil at the scene as the search continued into the evening. Hard Rock International said it was to be the future manager of the hotel and has no involvement in its construction. In Mexico, 2 migrants drowned off the coast of Mexico on Friday after the small boat they were on sank. According to reports, the boat was traveling in Mexico's southern state of Chiapas when it reportedly tipped over. 2 bodies were washed up on shore, however, 1 migrant from the boat was still missing. Survivors were taken to a local hospital for treatment. Officials reported that all migrants on board were from Cameroon but have not yet confirmed the number on board. In Hong Kong, defying a newly introduced ban on face masks in protests, various groups of protesters put on a mask and gathered at shopping malls in different districts in the afternoon, responding to calls from anti-government netizens via popular online forum. The gathering soon devolved into chaos, with some protesters resorting to familiar tactics, such as throwing bricks at police vehicles and vandalizing shops with business ties to mainland China or deemed pro-government. Police made numerous arrests and deployed tear gas to disperse protesters, saying they used minimum force. Stephanie C., UNTV News and Rescue.
The Philippine Sports Commission, or PSC, will provide cash incentives to Carlos Yulo, Nesty Potesio, Yumir Marshall, and other Filipino athletes for their achievements. During a press briefing today, Chairman William Ramirez said the PSC will provide 1 million pesos cash incentives to Carlos Yulo for setting a historic mark on gymnastics. Yulo is also Tokyo Olympics bound. Nesty Petesio will also receive 1 million pesos after clinching gold at the 2019 ABA Women's World Boxing Championships in Russia on Sunday. Meanwhile, Yumir Marshall and Ernest John Obiena will receive 500,000 pesos in cash and 250,000 pesos respectively. Malacanang lauds the Filipino athletes who have recently won a gold medal in World Championships.
We congratulate the gold medalists. We're always proud every time a Filipino wins, even a bronze or silver medal. Isa lang ibig sabihin nun, talagang magaling tayo. Kahit na every now and then.
Filipinos in Japan proved that the spirit of bayanihan continues to live as Typhoon Hagibis, the worst storm to hit the country in decades, struck Japan on Saturday. Ryuji Sasaki reports.
Typhoon Hagibis has dumped a record amount of rain on many parts of central and eastern Japan. Tochigi Prefecture was among the areas where emergency warnings took effect on Saturday. Several dams in Kanto region have discharged water as an emergency measure to prevent them from overflowing. Frank and Hercy Kurate's house in Ohiramachi, Tochigi is one of those affected by flooding after a release of water from the dams.
Ito yung sa sala, yung sa bahay sa first floor. Ayan. Inaabot na po, ayun, tumba na yung ref namin, tumba na yung mga gamit.
They couldn't do anything but wait for the water to subside.
8 years na po kami dito sa Japan. Ngayon lang din po kami naka-experience ng ganitong baha. Marami na pong bagyong nakaraan pero hindi po ganito kalakas.
And on Sunday, to their surprise, fellow Filipinos in Japan extended help upon learning about Frank and Hercy's situation.
Halos lahat po ng kagamitan nga nila nung hinahakot namin palabas, wala na, hindi na magamit. Gawa ng marami pong putik hanggang sa loob. Ang gandang bagay po sa kalooban na nakakatulong po tayo sa kapwa natin Pilipino. Bagamat sa panahon ng krisis tulad nito, nakakatulong po at nabibigyan tayo ng pagkakataon na matulungan sila sa kanilang pangailangan.
Thanks to the help from their compatriots, Frankie and Hershey's house is back to being a home sweet home. Ryuji Sasaki, UNTV News and Rescue, Tokyo, Japan.
And those are the reasons behind the news this October 14, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
I have come to the decision to relinquish my post as Chief PNP, effective today, and go on non-duty status.
Naapektuhan din ang kanyang personal na buhay, maging ang kanyang pamilya. So maring ito rin ang nagbunsod sa kanya na talagang magbitiw na lamang sa pwesto.
Now, hindi porque nag-retire ka, sarado ang kaso mo. Ako, sasabihin ko lang, mabuti naman at si General Albayalde makakapahinga siya. He has time to review his case.
Alam mo, kaya ko lang naman pinagbigyan sila para pamukha sa kanila na hindi totoo yung sinasabi nila na hindi namin nararanasan. Kahit na hindi ka, gaya na si Politulit, kahit na hindi ka sumakay doon, mararanasan mo kasi araw-araw nakikita mo yun eh.
Sana po abangan nila yung ating mga nagbabakuna or mas mabuti rin po dalhin na nila sa center. Basta po edad 5 years at pababa. Hindi po importante kung nakompleto niya na yung bakuna niya dati o kung hindi nila sigurado. Lahat po ng bata ay mabibigyan natin at wala naman po kasing overdose ito.